welcome. The hardest part of this has been just starting in terms of making this video. But I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited that I finally got a version of it that I'm somewhat happy with. I don't know if I'll ever be truly happy, but if you're watching this, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm hoping that with these videos I can share my journey and it will hopefully help someone else, whether it be through the tips and tricks or just help you with finding joy in your life again. In 2025, end of 2025, I really realized that I wanted to make a change in my life. In late 2024, I lost a very young family member, and that really hit me hard. And then in 2025, I lost 3 more family members, and by the end of 2025, I was just really thinking hard about what's important, and also really thinking about how, if I'm not careful, one accident, one emergency could really, turn your life upside down. I'm very blessed that that's not the case, that I was able to be there for family and work through things. But it really did put things in perspective for me a lot. And so it got me thinking about a lot of things. And one of those things was, I really want to have financial security. I want to have my debt paid off. I want to have a safety net. And I also want to be able to focus on retirement because you never know what's going to happen. And while you want to think that you're going to live forever, and not really live forever, but retirement at my age feels very far off, right? And so it's easy to think that you don't need to prepare for that. But again, last year just put a lot of things into perspective and really got me thinking that I need to focus on this. As I came to that realization and I started looking into, okay, what would it look like if I started to focus on those? I realized how much I didn't know about certain things. And there are tons of resources out there. But I realized that, there's probably other people that also struggle with this, that, you don't know what you don't know. And so I wanted to kind of share what I've learned, and also some of the things that have changed that I didn't expect to change, I guess, in a good way. But ultimately, just looking to kind of share my journey, the things that I've tried, what has worked, what has not worked, and hopefully along the way, it's going to help you. Also, try some things, motivate you to, set your goals, work towards those goals, whatever they may be. So, when I first started out at the end of 2025, so it was like Q4 2025, I want to say probably like November-ish, I think. It was October, November-ish, something like that, when I really started to kind of like evaluate things. December 2025 is when I got real serious about like, okay, I need to do something. I need to take some action. I sat down, I wrote out like all of my spending, not just bills, because I've always been really good at like keeping track of my bills, paying bills, doing all of that. But it was, what I call now like variable expenses that sort of leave you going, where did my money go? What did I spend that on? If I actually, if something, God forbid, if I lost my job, right? And I had to say, hey, I need X number of dollars in order to be okay. for the next few months, what would that look like outside of bills, right? Like grocery, gas, all of that. So that's where I sat down and wrote out all of my bills. And then I went back and looked at the full year of 2025 to kind of determine what was I spending money on? How much would I need if something happened? In order to cover living expenses, because obviously, life is made up of more than just bills. And so by going back and looking at how much I had spent for like that last year, I was able to then put together some averages of how much I would need per month for groceries, for gas, for those extra variables that are required to live. You have to buy groceries. You have to, in my case, like you have to get gas. My job requires me to come into the office, which is okay. And so I have to have gas. I have to have a working vehicle. So there was lots of things that I had to figure out there. And I made the goal that in January 2026, I was going to continue to track all of my expenses. So December 2025, I started tracking everything. Every dollar that I spent, I wrote down. I actually used the Budget Mom's paycheck by budget tracker is what I used. I bought her like PDF off of Etsy and used kind of like her method to start with on like going back, determining what all my bills are, categorizing those into where do they fall, and then tracking things and putting every single transaction into a category so that I could very clearly tell where my money was going. So I did that in December 2025. And about 6 weeks into that, I definitely noticed some interesting behavior changes. Like I was not spending money as much. I was much more aware of if I was going to buy something, why I was buying it. Was it something that I needed, or was it something that I just wanted, or was there like an emotional response behind it? In terms of like, did I have a rough day, or did something happen that triggered me to want to go buy this? So I thought that was really interesting because, again, I had only been doing it for less than 2 months, and I was like my thought process was already starting to change about like, why am I spending this money, and also what am I buying? Do I really need this? So that was interesting. End of 2025, I did have some what I would call consumer debt. So it was credit card debt. I had a credit card that had a fairly large balance that was, at the time, it was 0% interest. I had done like a balance transfer. Honestly, couldn't even tell you what it was for. I had done a balance transfer a while back. And because they offered that 0% interest, and I was getting close to needing to get that paid off. At the time, I want to say my balance was a little over 8,000, and so it was a hefty balance. But I made the goal, and that I was going to get that paid off, and I was going to do it before the interest hit, which meant I needed a plan on how I was going to do that, how I was going to get that taken care of. And then I also needed to make sure that I was not spending more money than what I was bringing in, so that I didn't continue to incur debt. So I set out on that. It was one of those big things that I was focusing on. It felt like a very lofty goal because that's a pretty large balance to need to take care of. I'll have to go back and look, but I want to say I had like 5 months, maybe less than that, 3 months. I'll have to look, but it was a pretty hefty turnaround time on when I needed to get that paid off in order to not start accruing a ton of interest on it. And I At the time when I set the goal, I wasn't 100% sure that I could do it. But I set the goal and I was determined to at least give it my best shot. And lo and behold, here we are. It's, been 6, 7 months and I hit my goal. I got that credit card paid off. I also went through and was able to get $1,000 put into an emergency savings fund. And now I'm at a point where I'm kind of reevaluating what I want to work on next. And one of those things was, I kind of want to share what I learned along the way. So the first thing that I would suggest if you are looking at trying to work on your debt, work on getting yourself to a more comfortable spot, would be looking at what you're spending. Go back, look at the last 12 months. If that feels too daunting and too overwhelming, just do 6 months or 3 months. Anything that can give you some sort of idea of, here are my bills, but more importantly, what are the extra things that I'm spending money on? Those are the things that at least for me, were like runaway expenses, right? You just don't realize how much you're spending on that morning coffee or on grabbing lunch because you didn't have time to make lunch for yourself, or eating out, right? Like, I love to go out with my wife, with friends. Like, I love to enjoy food, right? Good restaurants, try new things. That's something that I really enjoy. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying that. I do want to be clear, like, I didn't stop living. I didn't stop doing all of that. What I did was I made it part of my budget. So, like, I made sure that if we have things going on that month, that I'm setting money aside for that, and that I am able to go and enjoy the outing or the dinner or whatever it is without feeling guilty later. What I noticed in doing that, though, that was a positive, is that when I would go out before and I didn't have money set aside for those outings or different things, my mindset was kind of like, whatever, I'm just going to have a good time. I'll deal with it later. In terms of how much I spent. Now I go out and it's like, okay, we're going to have a good time, but I know I've got $100 set aside for this. And so I'm going to try to keep it in that. It doesn't mean that I don't ever like accidentally go over. It happens. And at first I was really worried about it. If I did go over it being like a failure and it really bothering me, but it actually doesn't. Like, I feel more secure in things because I know that if I went over, it's not like I'm blowing my budget. I know I can go back, look at things, adjust them, and then hold myself accountable to, okay, I did that, but I need to make sure that I keep it in check for, future activities during the month. So there's just some really good, like, behavioral things that have changed, and just like my view of money and like doing things in life, like purposefully, like intentionally. It's really changed a lot since I kind of started on this journey, and that is one thing I guess I wasn't expecting. It makes sense now that I think about it, but I just didn't know how much it would change once I started. So that is it for now. I will share some more in-depth things. I did mention the Budget Moms PDF like planner. It's been great. I don't use it as much now. I use pieces of it because I felt like there were certain parts of it that just were too in depth for me, or just didn't really fit kind of like what I needed it to do. So there are definitely things that I've adjusted, but that's also the beauty of making the process your own, is that you know, you don't have to do things exactly how someone else is doing it. It's all about finding what works for you and then recognizing those positive changes that are making positive impacts and growing on those. Another thing that I'm going to be sharing more on is one of the big line items that I saw for us was dining out, obviously. We love to dine out as like a social activity. But also, there was a fair amount of dining out that I noticed was more convenience than social. And I'll kind of like break that down, like how I was able to kind of identify that. I think maybe in a future video. I don't want this one to be too long, but essentially what I did was I recognized in looking at my expenses and then kind of like paying attention to, you know, where my money is going. I was able to see that, like, yes, dining out socially is really important, but there's also times where we are choosing to dine out because we just don't feel like cooking or we're not sure what to make. And so those are those places where I wanted to scale back. I wanted to save some money there. One, for obviously financial reasons to kind of trim where I could, but also for health reasons, because that was another positive thing that I noticed was as we started to cook more at home, which I love to cook, I just wasn't making time for it. So again, this goes back to like, there's so many things that have changed that I didn't expect. I didn't expect those things to be things that changed in this journey. And it's positively impacted a lot of things in my life. But back to the cooking, basically, I made it one of my goals for 2026 to cook more at home. I was going to make a menu and I was going to plan out our meals so that we would know what days we are eating at home and what days we are going to go out. I don't always set the exact day that we're going to go out. I just leave open days in my meal calendar, and I'll share all that with you. But it has made a huge difference. One, in how my body feels because I'm not eating fast food. I also notice when I do eat fast food now, that I feel differently. So that's been good. And then it just, like, I've realized that I love to cook and I love to cook for people. And that was like something I was basically taking from myself because I felt like I'm tired from being at work all day. I don't want to go home and have to cook. And really, I just needed to kind of like get back in that habit. But I'm kind of rambling and getting off topic here. So essentially, I am excited for this journey. I'm excited to share the things that have made an impact in my life. And I'm hopeful that these things will help you as well. And that there's something that you'll take away that will help you find the joy in life again and find things that you can do to just really own your future and help you get where you want to be. So stay tuned. I'm excited for this. This is my first video, so I hope that things will get more structured as I go. But also I'm just excited to be here and share these things with you guys. So drop a comment, let me know what kind of things you would love to hear about. And I look forward to seeing you guys. Bye.